Welcome back to New Hype Travel the podcast. This is Janae and Shakira, and we are live from. I'm sorry. This is Janae, and this is
Kira.
much better. Okay, so we are live from Riviera Maya. We're at the Valentin Imperial Resort. So we've spent the last how long have we been here? Like a week, 8 days.
This one? Or just in Mexico?
Mexico.
8 days.
All right, so we spent the last 8 days visiting resorts. This is the seventh resort that we've seen in the last week. And one of the interesting things that we didn't really expect to spend a bunch of time and energy on while we were visiting the resorts is how they handle dietary restrictions. So I am lactose intolerant and I don't eat pork.
She is complicated.
Outside of that, I try not to be complicated. But anyway, um, so at the different resorts, they all handle it differently, and it kind of brought to light like some useful information I thought might be helpful to somebody else. So most of the all-inclusive resorts, they have the buffet at breakfast, lunch, whatever. And so usually you would think if you don't eat something and you see it, you don't eat it, right? Like I don't eat pork, I don't eat it. But some things came up this week that I never would have thought of. So let's just start by saying like the top tier experience with handling my food allergies or restrictions this week was at the Majestic Elegance. So at the Majestic Elegance in Costa Mujeres, when you get to the restaurant, they ask you if you have any food allergies or dietary restrictions. I said yes. And then they sent out the chef to meet with us and basically walk me through the whole buffet and say, like, you can eat this, you cannot eat this. This is why you can't have this. This may be contaminated. This may not like rented or like rotten, but just this may have touched pork or this may have been cooked with pork and you don't know it.
I got her 2 times before that.
So one of the things that stood out was like the tortilla chips. Now, that's kind of my staple when I come to Mexico and I'm at the resort, is like they got too many cheesy things that I just can't eat. So I'm like, all else fails, give me whatever meat that's not pork with guacamole and chips, and I'm like good to go. But what they actually pointed out was that most of the chips are fried in the same oil as all the other stuff, including the pork. So thankfully they had some other chip that they could provide for me, but I'm like, dang, like the chips that I was eating all along
Tastes good.
yes, and they are fried in the same grease with the pork. So I was like, well,
Pork is good.
so so now we know don't eat those. But then even the fajita mix, it was like, oh look, that says steak and chicken fajita. I'm like, I see steak, chicken, onions, peppers, I can eat that. And he was like, yeah, but we make it on the same grill with the other pork stuff, so don't eat that. I'm like, oh, okay, well, thank you for pointing that out. And then they have the ice cream section. They have ice cream and frozen yogurt and sorbet. So I was like, oh, this is easy. I ordered a sorbet, I should be straight. And he had to tell her, like, oh, this person has a lactose allergy, so you should clean the spoons in between. And I was just like, well, I'm happy that I now know what to eat, what not to eat, or whatever. It immediately raised the alarm, like, so if he didn't say anything, was she just going to rub the same?
Wait. To their defense, it's not that it's like you rubbing whatever. She just takes it and she dips it to shake it. He was like, no, use a fresh, like, wash it.
Right. So, as a lactose intolerant person, if you scoop ice cream and you dip it in water and then you scoop my sorbet, there's a very good chance you're still going to hurt my stomach.
Most ice cream places do that. They have the thing with the running
And
water.
I don't eat them. So it's like, there's varying degrees to lactose intolerance. Some people are like, oh, it's okay, it just hurts my stomach a little bit, or it gives me gas. I'm like, no, I'm like doubled over laying on the floor in pain when I eat dairy that I'm not supposed to eat. So that was very helpful to me. But I do appreciate the fact that every single time we went to eat, somebody asked, and then there was somebody available to say, you can eat this, you can't eat this, whatever. So that is some kind of animal that was just moving right there.
Oh, it's an iguana. See, it's near the pool. It's a pool.
Okay, sorry about that distraction, y'all.
He's very big.
There are a lot of animals here. A lot.
It's not that many. She's fine.
Check the TikToks. It's a lot of animals.
It's not that many.
Anyway, back to the dietary stuff we were talking about. So, The good thing is, like I said, so when I came for breakfast, I was able to go, oh, I don't eat. I see that you guys have turkey sausage, and they were like, yeah, we cook it on the grill with the pork. But if you want some, then we'll go make you a fresh one. And they actually had a lady come out, go turn on a fresh grill, and make me fresh turkey sausage separate. Or they would like go get a brand new pan, clean everything, and then make it separately with no problem. They weren't like disgruntled because sometimes they could be like, you're making me do extra work. But they were actually very pleasant. I appreciated that. So the Majestic Elegance set a very high standard for the rest of the week. Fast forward to where we are now. This is a completely different experience. So we had
The similarities, like when you get to the restaurant, they do ask you if you have a food allergy.
yes,
That they do.
and then after that, they don't really do anything.
I think it's because it's like so the difference that I noticed communication wise is that when you said lactose at Majestic, it was like, okay, like they had the understanding and they knew, and then they kind of didn't know at the same time. But here it's like lactose is like, you'll be alright, you won't die. Not like a peanut allergy. Because when the lady came, I was paying attention when the lady came in and they was like, do you have any food allergy? She was like nuts. They was like, oh, okay, and then they like did
Yeah.
a bunch of whatever.
I think the other thing is the difference between like an intolerance and an allergy, right? Because like if you have a milk allergy, it's a completely different thing than being intolerant.
Yeah.
So like I can still have yogurt and I can still have butter, but like when we went to dinner last night, they acknowledged that I had a lactose intolerance, and so my vegetables came out completely unseasoned with no butter, and they were like, "But you said no lactose, no dairy," and I was like, "Right." But so now I know every time I say I can't have lactose, I don't have pork, I have to make sure to say butter is okay. Like, please give me butter. Otherwise, you get unloved food. Butter is necessary for me. But yeah, so the other thing, so we informed the front desk basically of our experience because when we ordered room service, I said no cheese, no onions. I just don't like onions. And when my food came, I still had cheese on everything.
But you had no onions.
There was cheese on everything. So I was like, once I let them know, like, this has been my experience, like, they really tried to accommodate. So they made us a reservation at the Asian restaurant last night, and that's the place where they didn't know I could have butter, but at least the food was safe. So better safe than like the setups that I had at the other places. And then to try to make up, they gave us a reservation for this evening and for the morning, just to like make sure that when we arrived at the restaurant, because the restaurant doesn't really require reservations, but it's basically letting the staff know that somebody's going to arrive that has either a food allergy or a specific dietary restriction, just to make sure that they are prepared. So when I placed my order last night, the waiter was like, this is what you can have, these things you cannot have, and then if I have any questions, then they make sure to go ask the chef before they bring it out. Mm-hmm. So even though it's not the same experience as Majestic, they still at least put forth the effort of being able to ask, what can you have, what can't you have, and then making a reservation to accommodate accordingly. But you really just have to know for yourself, like if these are things you don't eat. Personally, because I don't eat pork, I'd never eat at an omelet station at an all-inclusive resort. Mm-hmm. While you would think, yes, I'm just going to go get an omelet and put vegetables in it, it's every experience I have seen, it's on the same grill wherever they put ham and bacon or whatever, and they don't necessarily stop and clean it in between each. Like, I've never seen them stop and clean it in between each one unless you alarm them that you have an allergy, and then they use a separate pot. Right. So that's something really, like, just to look for, because so a lot of people take for granted that you can just go, oh, well, I can see it. That's not pork, so I can eat it. And a lot of times the things are all cooked together. Did that cover it?
I think so. Because we didn't really eat at we did eat at was it Zalara?
Yeah, Hyatt Zalara was great.
And the same thing, even though we weren't staying at that resort.
But the lunch at the Hyatt Zalara, they keep things separate in a way that it made it very easy for me to know this is okay to eat and this is not. So like the meats are cooked separately. So they had one grill that was just for pork and chicken and beef, and then the other grill was just for like fish and shellfish. And then even if you wanted to get beef or chicken and not have it cooked on the grill with the pork, then they accommodated that by putting a separate pot. Which is great. It's easier if they already keep the shellfish and the other meat separately, so it's not really a big stretch to have them make you something different or to make it separately to keep it clean. Also, the food was labeled better.
Yeah.
So, if something looks creamy, I generally don't touch it. But then on the signs, it would say in coconut milk or with coconut milk. So then I would know whether or not it's okay to eat without necessarily having to ask someone to show me, through the buffet what's safe and what's not safe.
That was a good buffet.
It was a good buffet. I highly recommend the Hyatt Zilara.
They had a candy station. And it was name brand candies.
Okay, that was a short one. Now it's time to say goodbye to all my new hype friends.
Hi, it's hot.